What's going on, Aces? Welcome back to the channel. It is a beautiful sunny Sunday where I am. I hope that it's beautiful weather wherever you are. Last night, Love and Marriage Huntsville came on their ninth episode titled Ready to Pop Off. So that was a double entendre regarding, Lou getting into it with Martell and Marsau and Tiffany's pregnancy. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the episode opens with Tisha and Marsau, talking about how they're building their dream home and they're packing up and they're moving and they're getting ready to, move into a new apartment, I think, while they are building their dream home, which makes sense, if they're going to downsize and instead of, I guess, renting their townhouse that they were renting, they're going to downsize and move into an apartment so that they can take that additional money and fund the building of their dream home, right? But they said it's not going to be ready for another 2 to 3 years. So, they're patient and they're strategic. And so Marsau begins telling Tisha about the conversation that him and Martell had with Tiffany at Blaque. So as you guys know, that's what happened last episode where Martell invited Tiffany there to talk about, their business that they were going to do in Selma. However, it quickly went left and they started talking about the conversation that she had with Sheree. Okay. And, Marsau was there originally helping Martell study for the builder's exam that he failed. And they were going to barter and Martell was going to help Marsau get into shape. So Tiffany comes in, she waddles in, she's really pregnant. But Tiffany, in my opinion, I feel like, she definitely, she weaponized that vulnerability, that vulnerable state, because she could have easily, gotten up once the conversation moved from business to personal, or, if she said that she felt attacked by these two grown men, she could have easily gotten up and been like, I don't feel comfortable talking about this, or, putting up those boundaries. Like, we're here for business. I wanted to talk about Selma. We can talk about that personal stuff with either, Sheree being here or my husband being here or something to that effect. Right. But y'all, Tiffany is messy. So, I mean, she is. She stirred the pot. She was here for the mess, and she instigated it, and she, she took it there with Martell and Marsau. Okay, so Martell was basically just asking her about what she said to Sheree and in regards to, their relationship. And a lot of the things that she said, in my opinion, they were inappropriate. You know what I mean? Like her saying to, Sheree, do you think that your love life with Martell is, good enough to keep him, so to speak? And I can't say exactly what she said because of, YouTube community guidelines. We keep it family friendly over here. But Tiffany was not. Like, she was really going in for the jugular. She's like, well, how does it feel to date a cheater? When Tiffany's a known cheater herself. And then and then she goes back to Lou. So she tells her husband, what happens. And, he gets upset because he wants to protect his wife naturally. Although, when she tells him, I asked him, how does it feel? Or I asked Sheree, how does it feel to date a cheater? Lou looks at her like, you really said that? You know what I mean? Like, she's like, yeah, I did. And then she tells Lou that, Marsau called her a Karen, which in my opinion, in that instance, she was acting just like a Karen. It had nothing to do with her being biracial. You know what I mean? But that's what she said. She was like alluded to. She's like, I asked him, is it because I'm half white? I'm the only half white person in the group. No, your race has nothing to do with it. But the fact that a lot of people of different races are socialized differently, most people of color that I know, and I'm not even talking about just Black people, I'm talking about Latinos, Asians, etc., they don't weaponize their femininity and they don't use it as a power play over other marginalized people. Now, sometimes they do. Nobody in no race is a monolith, okay? But I'm speaking in terms of, a generalization, right? So generally, the only people we see on social media and the only people that has a history of weaponizing their tears and their femininity is a subset of a population that are Karens, and that's exactly what she was acting like in that moment. And to take it a step further, when they get to the baby shower, everyone's sitting around talking about exactly what happened with Tiffany and what she said. And, um, Tisha's there and, Nell and her husband, Nell Fletcher and her husband are there. And Stormy and Courtney are there. And they're all there to support, Tiffany during her baby shower. Melody comes in and, Tisha's like, well, we don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. She's like, no, y'all can say anything you want. And then they tell her exactly what was said, what Tiffany was talking to Sheree about Martell and about trying to keep him. And, so Melody's like, she excuses herself. She's like, no, I'm going to go ahead and make a plate because she's not here for the nonsense and I don't blame her. So when Martell gets there, Melody's like, you know what? I've had enough. I'm gone. I'm gone. And she excuses herself. And again, I don't blame her. Like Melody's trying to grow and evolve past just messy details of her past. So Melody leaves, and then Martell and Lou step outside with Marsau. And they basically get into it, and so Lou is like, well, what did you say to my wife, and, she's pregnant and she's this and she's that. And Martell's like, well, she came to me and said, well, how does it feel to date a cheater? Talking to Sheree. And Lou is like, well, you weren't right in that situation. Do you think that you were right in that situation? He's like, you had a point, but you weren't right. And he's like putting his finger in Martell's face. And Martell's like, of course I was right. Now, both things can be, two wrongs don't make a right, okay? Tiffany was wrong for what she said to Sheree. Martell and Marsau was wrong because it does seem like they ganged up on Tiffany. And even though she is messy, she's also a woman. And she's also by herself. And she's also pregnant. So that's three things right there. Somebody in that trio should have had the wherewithal to say, you know what, let's table this conversation so that it doesn't look like two men are ganging up on a pregnant woman. Let's bring in your husband. Let's sit down and let's discuss this like mature adults. That's the caveat, right? Mature adults. And so they hash it out outside. Maurice hears them getting loud. He comes out, to try to monitor the situation and try to cool everybody down. But in the end, they end up hashing it out, right? Like Lou's like, well, when you and Mel were married, he's putting his finger in Martell's face. And Martell's like, oh, don't do that. He puts his hand down and, Lou's like, well, if this were your wife, I'm gonna, get in your wife's face. And Marcel's like, no, you're not gonna get in my wife's face, and you're not gonna confront my wife, But at the end of the day, I feel like Lou was the more mature out of everyone. And he said to them, if in the future Tiffany says something or you have a problem with my wife, come to me. I'm her husband. I'm her man. So then at that time, Tiffany, she's inside and she says that she's feeling dizzy. She's feeling woozy. She, calls Lou in and he's going in to check on her. He's like, what's wrong? And she's like, well, turn off the light. And so again, if Tiffany is that pregnant, far along in her pregnancy, and she is older, it's an older pregnancy, I feel like she should, because she already has a child, Ace is not her first child. So with that being said, you would think that she would have the mindset and the wherewithal to say, I'm not going to discuss this situation with you because I am pregnant, because I am vulnerable, right? But Lou, he checks on her, he turns off the light, he makes sure that she's okay, he gets her water, he calms everything down. So shout out to Lou. I feel like he was stuck between a rock and a hard place, because I'm not going to say that Tiffany is a Karen, but she's messy, and she has Karen-like tendencies in certain situations. Lou definitely has his work cut off for him, but he loves her. She did deliver Ace, successfully. So she has a happy baby boy. And congratulations to the Whitlows on their beautiful blessing and their addition to their family. Drop down in the comments, y'all. Let me know your thoughts on this situation. Like I said, I think everybody was wrong with the exception of Lou in this situation. But I want to hear from you guys. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I will talk to you later. Take care, Aces. Bye.